designed.
Right.
I'm actually coming out with a slim pulse. I have
Okay.
to say it because I know people are going to call it that, but it's an impulse slim,
Okay.
and it
Hey
is
guys, this is Keith with KnifeJoy. Thanks for joining us today. We love bringing these videos to you, and today we have a really special guest, Joseph Vero, with us today. Joseph, how you doing?
great. Keith, how about yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing great, doing great. So Joseph is a knife designer, and I think you have even some backgrounds as well, and that it really leads into that some. And why don't you start, if you would, just give our audience a little bit about who you are and how you kind of came to be a knife designer.
Sure. First, thank you guys very much for having me on here. This is awesome. You guys are awesome. I love working with KnifeJoy. I've known Zach for a long time, and I'm really glad to be working with you guys. And thank you very much for having me on.
Absolutely.
I'm a mechanical engineer by schooling, by trade. My previous job, before I started into knives, I did I made tech for law enforcement. So we did drones and video and a lot of really fun stuff, actually. We had a bit of a lull during the design process. So obviously my favorite part is the design process, trying to think up new things. And you get to a point where you have to put that into production and, troubleshooting and all that stuff. And I kind of had an itch to design something. And a friend of mine and I were talking about flipper tabs. And I was saying how I hated that flipper tabs kind of stick out the back of the knives. And
Gotcha.
I just didn't know why they didn't do it a different way. And that different way that I was trying to explain to my friend was having the flipper tab along the spine of the knife and not protruding out. So I said, well, I want to design something. I don't have anything to design. Well, I might as well design this to show my friend. And that was kind of the birth of the Vero flipper tab, I guess you can call it, where the flipper tab is
Right. Yeah, I've got one
in line with the spine of the knife. The neuron is kind of similar in the fact that it also doesn't protrude and can be used as a standard flipper.
Gotcha. So you were working on, like you said, engineering things for law enforcement, drones, things like that. And after you design it, then there's kind of a downtime. And in this downtime, you got bored, right? And so you're like, hey, I got this knife, but this is really a problem. We need to solve this problem. So you kind of invented a way to solve that problem. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, at the time my wife was pregnant, and there was a lot of downtime at home, and I was just sitting there, rubbing her belly, and went ahead and just kept going with the design. Once I designed the flipper tab, I was like, well, let me just see what blade I would put on there, and then what handle, and just kept going with it. And at a certain point, I got the kind of the bones of the impulse designed.
Okay.
And
was that your first?
I liked it.
Was that the first?
Yeah, that was the first design.
Okay.
And I liked it, and some of my friends liked it, and I reached out to a couple of people I knew in the industry, and they said, get some prototypes made. Got the prototypes made, brought them to Blade Show 2018, and people seemed to like the design also.
Yeah, it's awesome. Just got some of those in recently at KnifeJoy, and they went just right as soon as we got them in. I think, like within an hour or something. So obviously the design is liked, and I think that's happened to other places for you as well. I mean, you've really, since you've introduced this, are you still doing anything with law enforcement, or is this kind of said, hey, this is my thing now?
No, I kind of wish I was. The stuff that I was doing before was really, really fun and interesting. But I have to say that about a year and a half ago, both my wife and I quit our day jobs to do Vero Engineering full time, and we just never looked back. It's a passion that's become something so much more than that.
I'm glad it's going well for you. I know that there's a lot of popularity and breaking into something. It seems like that it would be hard, because there's been knife makers, knife designers for a long time. Knives have been around forever, and then you've got some really established brands out there. And so to see someone be able to break in new with some new energy and new designs, what was that like? Was it kind of intimidating walking into it, or did you just feel like confident right from the start?
Fortunately, I was able to do this during my day job. I would work my day job, then I would come home and finish designs, work with the manufacturer. When we got our first knife run in, it took over our kitchen table. I would adjust the knives, I would tune them. We would do,
Wow.
I would do anodizing and, do the customization that we were doing and ship them out. And it was just kind of a night and weekend thing. So it was very low stress. It was a hobby. It was a fun thing that we
Side
were
hustle.
able to do. Yeah. So then it just kind of organically grew. And at a certain point, I knew that there was, I had to make that decision where it was, if I didn't quit my day job, I knew Vero Engineering wouldn't be what it could be. And I had to see it through, and I had to make sure that it did have legs, and
Right.
it does.
Yeah. So you were able to you were fortunate that you were able to have the time to do that and kind of test the waters. But then when you saw success, you're like, this is what I'm doing. I'm going all in. And you said even your wife is in the business now?
Yep. My wife and I, she kind of does the customer service side of it. She's hands-on. She helps us. She does the shipping. It's really kind of weird how much I actually enjoy working with my wife. She has her own Instagram page. She helps out with the Facebook group. People know Michelle. They leave her notes when they place orders. It is really fun. The community is amazing. That's one thing. And actually, to go back to your original question about how kind of not knowing whether this would work or not, and still going forward with it. I think a big indication was the community. We had a Facebook group and my Instagram, and people really, they seem to love the brand. They seem to love to know that it was me and my wife doing it. And, it was us packaging the stuff. It was us testing the stuff. They would post their pictures and kind of be proud that they had Veros. So it really did become this big community thing.
Yeah, that's cool. That's like when you get to that, they talk about like artists and singers and stuff when you're on stage, and then everybody knows your lyrics. It has to be kind of like that feeling, right? It's validating.
Yeah, right,
when you
exactly.
say it out
Yep.
there. Yeah, that's really cool, and it's cool that you get to work together that way, and you guys are singularly focused. Talk a little bit more about the knife community overall. And you mentioned going to a knife show in 2018. How did the community overall? Is that kind of what you expected when you got into it?
I'll tell you the biggest surprise. So I was a knife collector. I went to Blade Show before I ever even designed a knife, and I loved it. It's such an amazing experience and such an amazing community. What I wasn't expecting was we went to Blade Show as Vero Engineering last year for the first time, and we got a booth. And in my mind, people know who Vero Engineering is. It's just, you
Right.
go onto my Instagram and everybody has a Vero Engineering knife or knows, and it was so honestly amazing to see how many people had no idea who we were. They would come up to our booth and go, I don't know who you are, but I needed to see why there was people crowded around this booth. And it's crazy because the community is so big that we all have this like tiny little section of it.
Right.
So my section, the people who are in the Facebook group and on my Instagram are amazing. They're just amazing. I love waking up in the morning and seeing that I have Instagram notifications,
Right.
and seeing people use my knives as their art or showing them cutting things. I'm like, it really is such an awesome experience.
It has to be. That's got to be a good feeling. And so tell me a little bit about that. You're talking about people using your knife and using your knives as art. Do you see your knives today and moving forward as kind of the everyday carry type knife? Or do you see some specialty uses out there? Or people using them for things that maybe even are kind of off label of what you originally intended? How's the community taking to that, and what's your vision for it?
I originally designed the Impulse, which was the one that had that flipper tab that we were talking about. It seemed to be the knife that I wanted to have in my pocket. So I designed a knife that I wanted to own. And I sometimes try to think of like, why did I want to own this knife? And a lot of it has to do with aesthetics. I like having a Instagram worthy knife in my pocket. If I take my knife out to show somebody, I want them to go, oh, that's clean. That's a nice knife. Also, if I am using my knife, if I have to cut something open, that's kind of a chore to like take your knife out, cut something open, put it away. Why not make that a better experience? So you have your flipper tab, which makes it fun to use. It's on bearings. You can use the milled pocket in the blade to flick it open. And it just makes opening your letters or your Amazon packages just a little bit more fun. So yeah, they're functional and you can use them for what you can use normal knives for,
Right.
but also they give you maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, and it's an enjoyable experience. That's one of the things that I talk about in knives too. Like when you just doing the things that you do in everyday life, when you've got a piece of art in your pocket, it's kind of enjoyable. You're like, hey, I see that I walk by my front door and that Amazon box is there, and I'm thinking, hey, I've got an opportunity to use this knife, and to open it up. Where before it's a task, right?
Exactly.
And so it does. It makes everyday things more enjoyable. And then there's also, of course, just a lot of things that you need a knife for. I just didn't know if there was moving beyond some of the everyday aspects of it. Did you have any vision of developing things specifically for hunting, fishing, outdoor and camping, RV? Is there any specific task stuff, or where do you see the brand going, or just getting better and sexier with the lane that you're in?
So I actually made a decision very early on to call us Vero Engineering, not Vero Knives, very specifically because I don't actually. I used to design drones and screens that go on police officers' arms, and I don't want to necessarily pigeonhole myself into just pocket knives. So I do want to branch out. I have a watch design and a flashlight design that I'm working on. And again, they have to have the same philosophy. They have to be different. You could just go buy a flashlight or a watch. They have to be something. I have my my chef's knives, which I know you guys carry on your site. So I have the chef knife prototypes here, which awesome. I'm very, very happy with.
Yeah, it looks great.
Thank you. I posted it on Instagram. It was one of those Instagram things where I kind of just posted a video, not really thinking too much about it. And the post had 500 comments.
Wow.
And yeah, it's one of those things where you're just like, it's a chef's knife,
Right.
But somebody said to me, they're like, dude, some people want to be able to get a knife from a designer that they know it's going to be a good quality. They know it's going to be something that they can be proud of when their friends come over, and it's also something that you use almost every day. So like, why not? So I was really happy to see that people are pretty jazzed about those as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And they are cool for sure. And just being able to move into saying a little bit of a different experience, but this is an experience where you're going to be using a knife. So why not enjoy that experience as well? And, and that's kind of the basis of KnifeJoy, right? That's kind of where we pick our name from, because you can make these experiences, fun, and it can be fun. And so, is there, anything that might be upcoming that you could talk to the audience about? We won't tell anybody. It's just me and you talking, right? Is there anything that you could?
All right, fine. Just between you and me.
Right. Yeah.
So I actually do have a fixed blade in the works, since you did ask. One thing that you did ask about was kind of uses for the knife. And we talked about getting a package in. This is the Axon. This is actually the Axon Mini. And when I designed this, I almost jokingly called it an APO, an Amazon package opener, because it has a sheep's foot blade here, which works really, really well for opening up packages. Yeah. And actually, my fixed blade is going to have a sheep's foot blade also for that as well.
Okay.
And a lot of people have been asking about knife drops coming up. I will tell you that we do have Synapse Minis coming up. And something that I haven't really told anybody about is the Impulse. So that was the original design that I designed.
Right.
I'm actually coming out with a Slim Pulse. I have to say it because I know people are going to call it that, but it's an Impulse Slim, and it has a thinner handle, It will have the milled pocket that's on both sides, which will be different than the Impulse, and it'll actually have a drop point blade in opposition to the Tonto that we have on the Impulse.
Gotcha.
So
that's
it's a complete.
So that's an Impulse that you're holding, not a prototype of the Slim Pulse that you're. But do you have
Kind of. So this is the prototype of the Slim Impulse with a Tonto. I wanted to test to see if I wanted to move forward with having it as a Tonto or not. But I did make the decision to go with a drop point just because of functionality. And in this case, you'll be able to have your Tonto Impulse next to your drop point Slim Impulse, and it's two different knives for two different purposes, and you can kind of carry them separately.
Yeah, so a little different, but for all of the people and everyone that loves the original, this is just kind of a version 2, but it's also has a different purpose, and so that's great. I appreciate you sharing that with all of the audience today. Let us know in the comments what you guys think about that. So, man, really just appreciate you spending a few minutes. I don't want to take too much of your time. We at KnifeJoy love working with you guys and love carrying your knives. The audience loves them, and just appreciate you spending time with us. If there's, I'll give you the mic. If there's anything that else that you want to say or address, feel free. But I think I just appreciate you joining with us today.
No, again, I really, really appreciate you guys having me on. KnifeJoy, your community is amazing. Your Facebook group is amazing. I love seeing the people that are as passionate about your company as they are about the brands that you carry. It's amazing to see that people want to support you guys because you guys are a great company. And I'm just really glad to be part of that and glad to be working with you guys.
No, I appreciate you saying that. I wish I could take credit for it. I'm relatively new, but Chris and Zach have, I know, kind of poured heart and soul into it and into the community. So really appreciate you saying that. So guys, drop comments, questions out, and we appreciate you watching this today. And Joseph, appreciate you being with us.
Thanks a lot.